Good afternoon, and this is the second lecture of this series of lectures, and the title of the lecture is Radio Tracer Applications in Hydrology. Hydrology is nothing but it is a science and flow dynamics of water, and this topic is also known as application of injected isotope techniques in hydrology. Means we are injecting a artificial radio tracer into the environment and trying to track it. So sometimes this topic is also called injected radio tracer techniques in hydrology. So I will directly go to the application part because I have already discussed the various discussed the methodology of radio tracer technology, and the same methodology which applies in the industry is also applied in hydrology. So the basic tracer methodologies remains the same. So the commonly carried out radio tracer applications in hydrology are sediment transport investigation in ports, investigation of effluent dispersion in coastal waters, flow rate measurement in canals and mountainous rivers, flow characterization in oil fields, residence time distribution in the environmental systems, measurement of groundwater velocity and its direction, and seepage location in dams and water bodies. So these are some of the very commonly carried out radio tracer application in hydrology, and I will discuss these applications one by one with some specific case studies. Now let us start with the first application, which is called sediment transport investigation in ports. You can see that India has a long coastal line, very long coastal line, and there are about 14 major ports situated on this coastal line, and there are about more than 130 small ports which are all located along this coastal line. Now you see in the ports and harbors, the ships come to the port, and for the ships to come to the port, there is a navigation channel. A navigation channel is nothing but it is a water column where the depth of the water is maintained around 10 to 15 meter. Means for the smooth sailing of the ships, the depth of the shipping channel has to be always maintained about 10 to 15 meter, depending upon the size of the ship. And to maintain the depth of those shipping channels, the continuous sediments are dredged from the shipping channel, and these dredged sediments are dumped at some location nearby in the sea. They cannot be dumped at the shore, neither they can be dumped very far from the channel, because otherwise it is going to be a very costly if we dump them very far or to the shore. So what is done? These dredged sediments are dumped just nearby the maybe 1 kilometer away from, or maybe half a kilometer away from the shipping channel. Now, wherever we are dumping the sediments, the dumping site should be such that the sediments which have been dumped there should not find their way back into the shipping channel. Otherwise they will again silt the channel, and whole purpose of dredging and dumping will be defeated. So here now the question is that how to evaluate and how to examine the suitability of a dumping site, whether the site selected by the port is suitable for dumping the dredged material or not. So you see that here, you can see a table here, and on this table you can see that there are various ports and they spend a lot of money on the dredging. And you can see here the Calcutta port spends about 4,000 millions of rupees annually on the dredging. So it means the dredging, it means the dredging operation, or wherever you are dumping the dredge sediment, that has to be properly evaluated before it is dumped. And here radio tracer techniques are used for evaluating the suitability of the dumping site. Now let us see what is this methodology. The methodology is very simple. We make a suitable radio tracer, and here the radio tracer is scandium 46 in the form of scandium glass powder. And this radio tracer is dumped at a location where the port people want to dump the sediment. And when it is done, its movement is tracked over a period of time. Its movement of the sediment on the sea bottoms, they are tracked for a maybe depending upon the site or depending upon the current. Its movement is the movement of the radio tracer on the seabed is tracked over a period of 3 to 4 months. And from the data, we plot the isocount contours, and from the isocount contours one can find out what is the direction of the movement of the sediment, what is the extent of lateral and axial movement, what is the velocity of the transport, what is the transport thickness. Transport thickness means the thickness of the sediment layer which is moving on the sea bottom, and then what is the total quantity of the sediments which is being transported. And from the radio tracer experiment, we get all these parameters, and then based on these parameters, the port authorities, they examine the suitability of the dumping site and also optimize the dumping operation. Here I will give an example of Calcutta Porters, a study which we had done in 2016. You can see here, this is this red dotted line is the shipping channel. And this portion of the channel, they wanted to dig, and after digging, they wanted to dump the sediments at this location. So they wanted to know whether when we dump the sediment at this location, whether they return back to the shipping channel or not. So we had done the radio tracer study using scandium 46 as a glass powder, which has the same density, same particle size. And scandium 46 has a half-life of 84 days. I told you that when we select the radio tracer for a particular study, the half-life is a very important parameter. Since we have to track its movement over a period of 3 to 4 months, the half-life should be of that order. And that is why scandium 46 is selected. It has very hard gammas. It emits 2 gammas, 1.12 MeV, and the abundance is 100%. And the other is 0.89 MeV. Again, the abundance of this gamma emission is 100%. And the activity of this scandium 46, usually in sediment transport investigation, the activity used is around 2 to 7 curie of scandium 46. In some sites we use around 2 curie, in some sites we use 5 curie, or in some 7, depending upon the expected dispersion of the sediment on the sea bottom. Now, in this study which we did in Calcutta port in 2016, you can see this is the this is the point where we injected the radio tracer. And you see, after injecting the radio tracer, we tracked its movement after 21 days. Its movement was tracked. And for tracking its movement, we use a waterproof scintillation detector, which was mounted on a sled. This arrangement is called the sled, and this sled is is lowered on the sea bottom, and then using a boat, it is moved on the sea bottom, and the radioactivity or the intensity of the radiation, gamma radiation, is monitored. And then you see that these are the plots after 21 days. These are the isocounts contours. After 42 days, these are the isotope contours after 42 days. Then after 70 days, these are the contours here. And after 115 days, these are the isotope contours. These are also called isoactivity curve. And now you can see from this spread of the activity, the movement of the sediment is almost as parallel to the shipping channel. Here you can see this is a shipping channel, and the movement of the sediment is parallel to the shipping channel. It means the site which was selected for the dumping was suitable. That is the first conclusion from the study. But they wanted to know what is the velocity of the movement. So what is that done? The center of gravity of each isocount contour is estimated from this formula. This is the formula. And this is the formula, tracer balance formula, from which we estimate what is the thickness of the movement, thickness of the moving bed. In the formula, you can see that N is the total counts counted in this isocount contour. K is the calibration factor of the detector. A is the activity which was injected. Alpha is the attenuation coefficient of scandium-46 for sand, and E is the thickness of the moving bed. So, and beta is a constant whose values depends upon how well the radio tracer is distributed in that particular thickness. So for the uniform distribution, if the activity is uniformly distribution along the thickness, then the value of the beta is 1. So you can see that in this equation, we have all are known from the experiment except E. So one can calculate the value of the thickness of the moving bed. Now you can see here, after injecting the activity, we can find out the total number of counts and the center of gravity, and then activities recovered back. And whatever activity is not recovered, it means it has been buried within that particular thickness of the sediment. And then from these parameters, from the center of gravity and the time between two consecutive tracking periods, one can find out the velocity. And using this equation, we can find out the thickness of the moving bed. And then we can also find out what is the total quantity of the sediment which is being transported. So this is all from the radio tracer experiments. We are not only getting the direction of the movement of the sediment or the spread pattern of the sediment on the sea bottom, but we are also estimating the various dynamic parameters of the tank. And all these are integrated together and are used to evaluate the suitability of the dumping site and optimize the dredging operation. And we have carried out more than 60 different radio tracer experiment in all the major ports in the country. In Kolkata alone, we have carried out more than 25 radio tracer experiment, because in Kolkata port, siltation, silt dynamics is very, very fast and it is very different, and the silting, this navigation channels gets silted very fast. Now let us That was about the sediment transport investigation in ports. Now let us discuss the dispersion of pollutant or effluent in coastal waters. And these experiments are usually done to determine the dilution factor of the pollutants, dilution factor, and the dispersion coefficient of the pollutant. Evaluate the performance of the outfalls, pollution status in the water body, and validation of the mathematical model. So these are some of the broad objective of the radio tracer experiment, which are used to carry out the effluent dispersion in the coastal water. Now here you can see this is the map of Mumbai, and few years back, this NEERI, which is called the National Environmental Engineering Institute, its headquarters is in Nagpur, but they have an office in Mumbai. They requested us to evaluate the dispersion of the pollutants which are being disposed all around the Mumbai. So you can see that we did about 7 radio tracer experiment to find out the dispersion of the wastewater, which is being wastewater and other pollutants which were being disposed in the sea. Here in these experiments, generally the radio tracer which is used in the this kind of studies is the bromine 82 as ammonium bromide. And as I told you that this bromine 82 is the workhorse of industrial application of radioisotopes. Now we had, I will discuss a particular case study here, which was done at Worli sewage outfall system at Mumbai. And here again, the objective of the experiment was to understand the sewage dispersion processes post commissioning of the outfall at different tidal conditions. So this is the outfall system which BMC had installed at Worli. You can see that there is a pipeline here. The dia of the pipeline is 3.5 meter. It is quite big, and maybe that it was maybe around 1 to 2 kilometers from the shore. It was its outlet was about I don't remember exactly at what distance, but I think it is 1.2 kilometers from the shore. And you can see that there are the different riser. These are called the riser on the riser of the outfall. So this is a pipeline here, and partly it is mostly buried, partly it is buried, partly it may be just on the seabed. And the wastewater which was treated or untreated wastewater was being disposed into the sea through this outfall. So they wanted to see, they had designed this outfall, and then they had installed it, and after that they wanted to know what is the performance of this dispersion, performance of this outfall by studying the dispersion of the wastewater along the coast. So we did this experiment using bromine 82, and the activity in this experiment, we did 7 experiments all along the Mumbai city. But in this experiment, the activity in those experiments varies from 1.7 to 3 curie of bromine 82. This radio tracer was diluted in a big drum, and then it was continuously injected for maybe around half an hour using a tube. It was injected into at the inlet of the outfall, means inlet of the pipeline. It was injected. Now it was mixed within the sewage, within the wastewater, and then that was pumped to the sea through the outfall. You can see these are the lead container in which we carried the bromine 82. And here you can see that people are making the arrangement for the injection of the activity. And you will be surprised that, we have injected some rhodamine dye with the radio tracer. Actually, radio tracer we can't see from our eyes, but at least the rhodamine D, which gives a red color, we can see from our. So this was injected to see, initially guide us in which direction this radio tracer is moving, in which direction it is moving, so that accordingly we can track it. So that was only for the initial guidance. Once we know that yes, we are this radio tracer is moving in this direction, then we can start tracking only in that direction. And it has to be tracked very fast, otherwise it will disappear. It will go. It will be washed away in the sea. So the tracking has to be done very fast. So to optimize our tracking study, we injected some rhodamine dye also with this radio tracer. So you can see that now this radio tracer is being tracked with some board. This is the radiation detector, and we are dipping our scintillation detector, waterproof scintillation detector at different depth and at the different axial locations from the tip of the outfall, from the outlet of the outfall. And you can see this is the rate meter where on which this detector is connected, and the radioactivity is continuously monitored as a function of height as well as a function of the axial location. And you can see that these are then the dispersion curve of the radio tracer. After tracking, they are plotted on a chart as a function of latitude and longitude, and then this kind of contours are plotted. From this contour, you can see that here this is the soar line. This is the soar line here, and this is the diffuser here. We injected the radio tracer. At the soar, but the outlet of the outfall was here, and from where the radio tracer was moving, and these are the isocount contours of that. So from this, we can see that the radio tracer is moving parallel to the coast, and it was non-emerging plume. Means this plume, where at which depth this radio tracer was injected, it was moving only in that level only. At that depth only, this was the contour. So, and it was not coming to the surface. Again, this is the another contour at this site, Worli site, and at here the tidal condition was neap ebb tide. Here it was the spring tide. Here it was the neap tide, and from this you can see that the movement of the radio tracer was towards the coast. So you can see that it was injected here, and you can see that all this wastewater is moving towards the coast, which is not a desirable situation. Now this water will all pollute the shore and will all pollute the coast. So this was not desired. But this condition is okay. This is moving. Here again, you see that these are the depth-wise profile of the radio tracer curve. Again, here at the neap flood tide condition, you can see that again the radio tracer was just moving parallel to the coast. Now we applied a two-dimensional advection dispersion model to this data. We try to fit the a model to this data. So you can see that these black dots are the experimental data, and this line, which is showing this curve, is the model simulated curve. So although here the fitting is not very good, but yes, it can be considered that, because for such a large system, modeling the dispersion of the radio tracer in a open sea is very difficult, and very accurate modeling is not possible often. But this was reasonably okay, and you can see that here it is the matching between the experimental data point and the model simulated curve is quite okay. And from this we could find out what is the dispersion coefficient in x direction and what is the axial dispersion coefficient in y direction. So these are the actually the parameter which were required to be estimated from this modeling. Now you can see that these are again the parameter. These are the dilution factors which were estimated using the radio tracer, and the dilution factor which were estimated using the model. You can see that here it is the width of the plume, means what is the plume of the radio tracer which is moving in the sea. Its width was estimated using the radio tracer as well as from the model. And again the lateral dispersion coefficients, these are the experimentally determined, and these are the model simulators. So you can see that there is a reasonably good matching between these two values, experimentally and model simulated values. And when this model was validated using the radio tracer, then independently this was used to predict the simulation of the dispersion of the pollutant in that area. So the radio tracer study helped to evaluate the performance of the outfall, and also to see how well is the design of the outfall. The model was validated with radio tracer data and was used to simulate the sewage disposal scenarios at various conditions. Based on the result of the simulation, optimal sewage discharge rates were estimated to meet the coastal water quality standards. The radio tracer study helped to enhance the confidence in the predicting capability of numerical models, and thereby helped in limiting the pollution in the coastal environment. So later on, this NERI scientists, they used to use that validated model, which was validated using the radio tracer, for predicting the dispersion of the pollutant at various conditions around Mumbai. So this was one. We did a series of radio tracer experiment, but in the recent time we have not done any experiment of this kind. So these are the very big experiments. Now let's move to the next application, which is called the radio tracer applications in oil field. Again, this is a very important application, and in fact I will just touch this topic. I am not going in the very too much detail, because this requires a minimum 4 or 5 lectures if I have to tell you the complete various type of radio tracer applications in oil fields. But I will just tell you what for the radio tracer are used in the oil fields. So you can see here, these are the green dots. These green circles are the oil wells, which are also called the producer. Green circle with the arrow upwards, and the blue circles are called the injector. They are the water injector with the arrow downwards. So actually, oil fields, actually it looks like this. If you see the oil fields, there will be many producers, which are called the oil wells, and there will be many injectors around those producers. You can see here Here, this is the one producer and one injector. Now, what happens when an oil well is drilled? It will have the sufficient pressure in the well. And because of its own pressure, the oil will start coming out from this well. But what happens over a period of time, this pressure decreases and the oil which is produced from the oil slowly decreases because there is not sufficient pressure inside the reservoir to push the oil towards the producer. Now, it doesn't mean that if suppose this producer had stopped producing the well, it doesn't mean that there is no oil in the reservoir. There will be sufficient oil, but there is not sufficient pressure. So what is done? Water is injected through these injectors. Water is injected through these injectors here, which that water will push the oil towards this producer, and then again the oil will start coming out from this oil well. It will again start producing the oil. So this is called the secondary stage of production of the oil well. Now, you will ask me what is the role of radio tracer here. Now, suppose if I am injecting water into this, water into this injector, I am injecting the water, and I do not know it will produce oil in which injector. Either it may produce in this producer or in this or in this, depending upon the subsurface or geological conditions. So actually radio tracer experiments are done to find out the interconnectivity between the water injection well and the production. So here you can see what are the radio tracer application in oil field. They are used to establish interconnection between oil water injection well. They are also used to know the preferential direction of movement of the injected fluid. I am injecting the fluid water here, but I do not know whether that water is moving in this direction or in this direction or in this direction. It may be moving in any direction. So to know what is the preferential direction of movement of this water, radio tracers are used. To establish the to estimate the breakthrough and residence time. What is the residence time between these two wells from the injector to the producer? And this tells us how much quantity of the oil is remaining inside the reservoir. This is one parameter. If I inject the water here and immediately this this water comes into this well, it means there is not sufficient oil here. So I need not to operate this producer. This oil well has to be shut down. So this is a strategy oil companies adopt. And they adopt this strategy from radio tracer experiment. Now, also flow pattern. Flow pattern means, as I told you in my last lecture, there could be bypassing of water, there could be channeling of water, there could be stagnant pocket inside the reservoir. So to find out all those things, again radio tracers are used. To evaluate the fraction of the injected water reaching the production well. Okay, I am injecting the radio tracer or water into this. I will not know how much of that water is contributing oil production in this well, how much is contributing in this well, how much is moving in each direction. So to find out the fraction of the water reaching to the different different producers, radio tracers are used. And to characterize the reservoir, how means to characterize the reservoir means to find out the heterogeneities, faults, porosity, permeability, and other geological parameters radio tracers are. So this is, I'm just giving you an idea what are the different application of radio tracer in oil fields. Now, you can see that these are the radioisotopes which are radio tracer which are used in the oil fields. Can cobalt 60 is also used as hexacyanocobaltitate, cobalt 58, cobalt 57, all in hexacyanocobaltitate. Then desiccated water, carbon 14, sulfur 35, chlorine 36, iodine 135. These are the some of the commonly used radio tracer in oil fields. But in India, we mostly use desiccated water, means tritium and carbon 14. And they have the half-life of 12.32 years, and carbon 14 has half-life of 5,730 years. So they are very, very long-lived radio tracer. And you can see that when once you inject the radio tracer, it may come out in after 1 year, it may come out after 2 years, after 5 years, and sometimes it has been seen that the tracer comes out of the reservoir from the reservoir even after 8 years or 9 years. And we developed all these radio tracer techniques for applications in oil field, and we have transferred all those techniques to a institute of ONGC called Institute of Reservoir Studies. So now they have a radio tracer laboratory. They just buy the radio tracer from us, and sometimes they also seek our help in injection and in some safety precautions, mainly during when the tracer is being injected. Otherwise, most of the analysis is done by this Institute of Reservoir Studies, which is located at the Ahmedabad, and they have their one radio tracers laboratory. You can see here two curves, three curves. You can see that radio tracer was injected in I think 98 here, 99, and then it was monitored in 3 different oil wells, and these are the radio tracer concentration at the 3 different wells in one of the Hira fields in south Hira field, which is around maybe near Mumbai coast only, a few nautical miles from the Mumbai coast. So this was all about the radio tracer application in oil fields. Now briefly I will tell you about the flow rate measurement. I have already told you about the flow rate measurement in pipelines. And in my last lecture, I told you that radio tracer are used for the flow rate measurements in the pipelines. But here I will be discussing radio tracer application for the flow rate measurements in the canals or in mountainous rivers or in large diameter pipelines. Diameter means around 4 meter, 5 meter is the dia of the pipelines. In those situations, the pulse velocity method, which is generally used for flow rate measurement in pipelines, is not applicable in this case. Here the radio tracer dilution method is used. You can see in the radio tracer dilution method, the principle of the method is shown here in this figure. You can see that this is a radio tracer storage tank, and we know the concentration of this radio tracer, which is known to us, and it is injected into the canal or into the river or into the pipeline at a flow rate of Q1. So we know the concentration which is injected, we know the concentration which is at which rate it is being injected into the canal. Q is the flow rate which needs to be measured, and C2 is the concentration of radio tracer in the canal. So radio tracer is injected here and it is measured at this location. Once we know, I know this concentration of radio tracer at any downstream location, using this tracer balance equation, Q1 C1 is equal to Q2 C2, and when it is rearranged, we can find out the flow rate of the canal. Q2 is equal to Q1 multiplied by dilution factor and again multiplied by C1. C1 is the concentration of the injected tracer divided by C2. Here D is the dilution factor, means how many times this radio tracer is being diluted. So this is the tracer balance equation, and using this equation, one can easily find out the flow rate of the canal or the river. You can see we have all are known except only unknown is Q2, and these four things are known from the experiment. So when we can find out the. So we have carried out a series of radio tracer experiment in Sardar Sarovar Narmada Nigam Limited. It is a very long canal, around 532 long canal, and we had done a few radio tracer experiment to measure the flow rate of the canal. This is the canal, which is a 60-meter wide and around 7-meter in depth. And this is one of the pumping station where there are a series of pumps inside this. And the Sardar Sarovar Narmada Nigam authorities, they wanted to know what is the efficiency of each pump, because inside there are large concrete volume pumps are mounted inside this pumping station, which are used for pumping the water to a higher elevation and then make the water to flow along the canal. And you can see that this is the Google figure of the canal, and you can see that here is a pumping station, and we did a radio tracer experiment in this canal, in this pumping station, and we injected radio tracer here, and we monitored at 3 different locations. These red marks are the bridges actually. Why we chose the bridges? Because there was the facility to hang our detector for the monitoring of the radio tracer. So we chose the bridges at 3 locations. And this is how a radio tracer, here the radio tracer used was the iodine 131 as sodium iodide dissolved in water. It was used as a radio tracer. And iodine 131 has a half-life of 8 days, and it has a gamma energy of 365 kV. And activity which was used in this experiment was around 1 curie. So this is the radio tracer storage tank, and is it being pumped into the inlet of the canal using a peristaltic pump whose flow rate was known. And these are the pipes through which the radiation detectors were inserted and used for the measurement of the radio tracer at 3 different locations, that is at the left bank, center, and at the right bank. And you can see that this is the radio tracer curve which were monitored by these 3 detectors. And during this plateau region, we collected the radio tracer samples, and we measured those samples in this container, especially fabricated container, and we measured the value of the C2. So this is the way how the C2 is measured. You can see here the people are collecting the sample. You can see here this container, plastic container, which are in which we used to take the sample. And this is the measurement, our measurement system. And you can see here that these are the results of the flow rates measurement. When you see all Q1 was known to us, dilution factor was known to us, C1 also known to us, C2 was measured from the experiment, and then we could find out the value of Q2, that is the flow rate of the water. So at bridge number 1, that is, and actually we had done the experiment at 5 different pumping stations, and we estimated that this is the value of the flow rate, 20.30 plus minus 0.29. Here it was 20.62, 20.47, and 20.62. So it means see that the values were very consistent, and from this was the experimental value, and exact value, the theoretical value which was estimated, theoretical efficiency of the concrete volume pump was around 20 cubic meters. So you can see here the experimental measured value was very close to the theoretical value, and based on this we validated the efficiency of the pumps, And now whatever flow rate these pumps will give, then that can be that value can be used for water auditing and distribution of waters through the small networks of the canals. So now again there is another application of radio tracer techniques is called residence time distribution. In my first lecture, I also told you about this application, which is called the residence time distribution. Means the process material inside any system when it is entering. Let us when a process material is entering, the different element of that process material will spend different times inside the system, and that is why there will be a distribution in their residence time, which is called residence time distribution. This residence time distribution is a very important parameter for evaluating the hydrodynamic behavior of industrial systems or any hydrological system. Now here the methodology is same as is adopted in industrial application. Here I will just give one example. This is an example of a wetland. This is a constructed wetland, artificially constructed wetland. And this was constructed by IIT Mumbai. There is a Center for Environmental Engineering. There is Professor Asolekar, and he designed and constructed these wetlands inside the IIT Mumbai campus. But the efficiency of and these constructed wetlands are used for treating the wastewater. And the efficacy of this treatment depends again on the hydrodynamics. Hydrodynamics means the residence time distribution, means the residence time, any kind of malfunctioning taking place inside the system, and the flow pattern. And you can see that these are the dimensions of this this wetland. Here it was a length was a 13 meter. Actually it was a pilot scale plant, because they were in some place in Maharashtra. They wanted to construct big this wetlands, and before that they designed one pilot scale plant and did all the hydrodynamic study to optimize its design. And this wetland consists of soil, sand, pebbles, bricks, and clinkers of different sizes. They are put here, or you can see here, and then some plants are planted over it. So this is also just in the beginning, and this is after some time when these plants, you can see here, plants are grown nicely. So here again the residence time distribution measurement was very important to evaluate the design as well as to find out the efficacy of the wastewater treatment. So this is a schematic representation of this wastewater wetland, and you can see the wastewater is fed from this side through two different locations, and then it passes through this bed of clinkers and soil, and it comes out here. When it comes out, the water is treated. Water is clean water here. But in the beginning here, it will be a wastewater. But we did the water looks quite clean, because it was already clean actually. We that time during the experiment, I think this is for the trial, we are just injecting the clean water. And this is not clean water. This is the water top layer of the water of your wastewater treatment plant actually. And here in this experiment, to measure the residence time distribution, we use technetium-99 as sodium pertechnetate as radio tracer, and technetium-99 has a half-life of 6 hours, gamma energies of 140 keV, and the activity which was used in one RTD run was around 100 megabecquerel. And you can see this is the generator, molybdenum technetium generator, which is used in nuclear medicine. The same generator we use here for the obtaining the tracer. So technetium 99 was obtained from this generator. You can see that this person is mounting the radiation detector through these pipes actually, and these are the monitoring location. These are the, here you can see that transect 1, transect 2, transect 3. And in one transect, we monitor the radio tracer at 4 different locations across the cross section of this wetland. And you can see that these are the pipe through which the detectors are mounted, not exactly up to the bottom, but middle of the wetland. And this is our data acquisition system. These all the detectors, they were connected to this indigenously developed data acquisition system. And you can see that when the radio tracer was injected only at one point of the wetland, let us say here, only at one point. If it is a one point injection, you can see that there is a, in run 1, transect 1, you can see that there is a variation in the radial distribution of the water. Here the more water is flowing through the detector 1, lesser water in D4, and again D2 and D3 is again very, very low. But when we inject the radio tracer at 2 different locations, you can see that these are the fairly good radial distribution of water across the cross section. So it was decided that radio in this wastewater, if you feed at multiple locations, the distribution will be better. Of course, it is already known. But then they wanted to do some RTD model. They wanted to see what kind of model fits into this wetland. What is the kind of model which will be suitable for modeling the residence time distribution of this one? And we tried many models. There are many models are there, and this is the physical representation of those models. Actually, they are the mathematical models, but this is the physical representation of those models. And those in those models are the numerical models which are numerically solved, and then they are fitted to the experimentally measured residence time distribution. So you can see that these black dots are the experimentally measured RTD curve, and this red shows the mathematically simulated. And you can see that there is a very good fitting between the experimentally and measured, experimentally and mathematically simulated RTD curve. So based on this, we told them that this is the model which will be most suitable for describing the hydrodynamics of the wastewater in the wetlands. So this is called the RTD model. So we propose this model, we use this for the simulation, and then we compared the experimental and mathematically simulated. We found that there was very good fitting. And these are the various models parameters. You can see here the dead volume was estimated by comparison of experimental and theoretical MRT, and you can see the values of the dead volume. At certain condition, the dead volume was 0, but at certain condition, the dead volume was very high, which was not desired. Actually, the dead volume should be almost 0. Another important parameter is N. N is nothing but it tells us the degree of axial dispersion of the wastewater. So here, if the value of N is 1, then it means there is a very good mixing of the wastewater inside the wetland. But here and if the value of this N is more than 20, this means this is the least. This is the axial dispersion is the least in that case. So for this kind of wetland system, actually the the axial dispersion required was minimum. It should be minimum. This implies that the system should behave like a plug flow condition. Plug flow condition means all the fluid elements should travel with the same velocity within the, then only the efficacy of the wastewater treatment will be the highest. And actually this, I will not go into the details because of the lack of time. And you can see that this data actually helped them to design a full scale wetland for the wastewater treatment. And now they are designing various kinds of wetlands for the wastewater treatment, and they have installed these wetlands in the different parts of the country. Now the groundwater velocity and direction is another thing which we can measure using the radio tracer. And there are two things. One is the velocity, other thing is the direction. So for measuring the velocity, a technique called single well dilution technique is used. You can see that this is a well here. It is a well, and where the radio tracer is injected into the well, and its decrease in the radio tracer concentration curve at a particular location in the well is measured. So you can see here the CT is the concentration of the radio tracer, and it is measured as a function of time, and it will decrease something like this. There will be, and using this formula, which is called the filtration velocity, one can find out the velocity of the. This is also called the Darcy velocity, because there is a Darcy law, and this is also called the Darcy velocity. Here you can see the parameter R1 is the radius of this. There is a actually tube here inside. So this is the perforated tubes. So it is the diameter of that tube. C0 is the concentration at H0 time t is equal to 0. Ct is the radio tracer concentration at time t. Alpha is the correlation factor for the hydrodynamic disturbance of the flow. And as I told you, that R1 is the radius of perforated plates. So we measure this curve, and since we know all these parameters, we can find out the velocity of the groundwater flow. Now another parameter which is often required to be measured is the direction of the flow, in which for this the multiple well techniques is used, and you can see that these are the different wells here. So multiple well technique is used for the direction of the to know the direction of the groundwater flow. So this is a well here, and around this well you can one has to drill a number of wells, and then inject the radio tracer here, and then measure the radio tracer concentration in all the well around this. Then one can find out the velocity of the direction of in which direction this is moving. For velocity measurement, mainly bromine 82 is used, and for direction, because desatiated water is used. So here, generally this distance between these wells is quite long. So a long-lived radio tracer is used, and cesium is best suited for this application. We measured the groundwater velocity and direction in one of the factory in Kerala, which is called Rare Earths Limited. And here there was factory management. They wanted to know what is the direction and velocity of the groundwater, because they wanted to know the source of the pollutant, because there was a water which was being polluted, polluted near the factory, near this factory. And we use bromine 82 as radio tracer for measuring the velocity, as I told you, and the velocity was found to be about 1.2 meters per day was the velocity of the movement. And we use the desatiated water to find out the direction again. And it was concluded that the contamination was found to be emerging from the southern part of the IRE site and not from the in-house activity. That was the conclusion from our radio tracer experiment. And the possible source of contaminants appeared to be a nearby industry. So actually there was a dispute between two industries, which industry is polluting the groundwater. So this experiment was done for that. So I think this is the last slide of my presentation today. Seepage location in water, seepage location in dams. You know, seepage is a very common problem in the dam. Very often there is a seepage, and here again the radio tracer techniques are used for identify the point of the seepage, in the point of the area of the ingress of water into the subsurface, point of seepage. So for this, a radio tracer which is called the Gold 192, AU 198, called Gold 198 is used as a radio tracer. The characteristic of this radio tracer is that, okay, it is in aqueous phase. When it is injected into the water and when it moves in the water, and wherever it gets sediments, or wherever it gets meets the sediment or the bottom of the bed of this dam, it will get absorbed at that location. So what is done? This radio tracer is injected nearby the suspected area of the seepage, and because of the seepage current, this injected radio tracer will move, and it will get absorbed at the point of the seepage. Then afterwards, after allowing sufficient time for its travel and getting deposited on the bottom of the bottom surface, a waterproof scintillation detector is moved on the bed of this dam, and wherever there will be a high amount of radioactivity will be measured, that point will be the point of seepage. So this is the methodology which is used. We have applied this methodology in 4 or 5 different dams in India over last 2-3 decades. And recently we have received one request from Uttarakhand. There is a place Bhimtal, and there is a very big dam is there, and they have requested us that there is a seepage in that dam, and they have requested us to measure the to help them in identifying the seepage location. Although we could not carry out that experiment because of this corona pandemic situation, but we have promised them that whenever the situation gets better, we will try to do this experiment. So this is the last slide. So in summary, I would like to say that radio tracer techniques are well-established tool for flow analysis in hydrological systems, and isotope and radiation application division of BRC is regularly using these techniques for these applications which I have just described. The availability of efficient computer controlled and high-speed data acquisition system has made it possible to investigate a fast and complex flow systems with minimum amount of radioactivity to be injected. So because of the efficient data acquisition system have made it possible to inject a very low amount of radioactivity into the environment, and they in turn they do not cause any radiation hazard. The amount of radio tracer used in environmental system, whatever radio tracer is injected, it gets diluted and dispersed in a large volumes, and thus do not pose any radiation hazard to the public and this environment. The transport and use of radio tracer is well regulated and supervised by a competent authorities and supervisory agency, which is the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. And the amount is, before doing any radio tracer experiment, we have to, when we do a radio tracer experiment in any public domain or any industry or any hydrological system, we have to take their permission from the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. And the amount which are injected are not very high. They are minute quantity is sufficient in most of the cases. And this whatever activity is injected, it doesn't pose any radiation hazards to anyone, neither to radiation workers or the public or to the environment. So this is all what I have to say, and thank you very